All right, guys, another episode of the John and Chris Show. We appreciate you all watching or listening, however you're partaking in this. We appreciate it. We just ask that you like and subscribe and help get us out there because it's a fun hobby, but we want to make sure we get as many voices involved in this as possible. Okay, so, hey, across the screen from me, it's my brother from another mother. Chris, what's up, man?
What's up? The bearded one is in the house, man. What's up, Sports Nation? Glad to do another episode of the podcast with you guys. As we just get to talk junk. We get to share our opinions, and as one guy has said, that everybody is an expert in their own opinion. So
you created your own world.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so it's my own world. I'm excited. Let's do this, man. We got a lot to talk about.
Yes, there's a whole lot that's happened since we were able to record last, which I'll admit I'm kind of missing Ben on this episode because my man was hilarious last week.
Yeah.
We're going to have to make sure we get him back on. But look, picking up where we kind of left off with him last week, we were talking NBA last week. So we're going to dive into this a little bit. You know, we're getting excited about the season coming back. Let's see, December 22nd. The season's supposed to tip off. And we have some really good games on Christmas Day. Hopefully the guys will have knocked off enough of the rust to be competitive that day. But one thing that stood out to me kind of out of all this was, I don't know if you noticed, but they changed the load management rules. And we've started that term load management because of Kawhi Leonard. You know, he would just take an occasional game or two off to supposedly rest his –
every other game, I think it was.
Basically. Yeah, no back-to-backs and all this kind of stuff like that. I wish I had $35 million a year to play every other day or something. That'd be amazing. But
yeah,
the NBA changed its rules because they were saying that there was no such thing as load management last year. And Adam Silver, I almost said the wrong name. Adam Silver was trying to make sure that he changes the perception of it all. So the rule states now they are not permitted to rest healthy players during national TV games or road games where there is not I'm doing quotes here, unusual circumstances. Okay, so what we're hearing is Adam Silver saying in the most probably legal terms he can, hey guys, rest all you need to because I know we're playing on the shortest off season of all time, but don't do it where it could affect our money. That's what it all comes down to. It's all about money. And that's exactly what Adam Silver is trying to cover here. He's trying to make sure that, you know, because let's just admit it, the guys that he's got to cover here, we're talking LeBron, Kawhi. These are the guys, you know, LeBron's his 17th, 18th season. It's kind of high. So he is trying to make sure that whatever he's got to do, you know, to be able to be available for the playoffs. That's what this is all about. It's money in between now and then. It's keeping guys healthy because they want the most talent on the floor during the playoffs when it's the money season. But what are your thoughts on this new load management rules?
Well, I love how they used the term in the definition. What was the word you used there? It was like it was open to interpretation.
Without question. Unusual circumstances in quotes.
Yeah, in quotes, you know, unusual circumstances. And, you know, the NBA has kind of really set the tone for the rest of the other leagues that are out there because they were the first ones to really come back after COVID and figure out how to do some sort of bubble, some sort of, you know, season. And, you know, obviously they lost ticket sales. And so now you've got TV revenues. You've got the whole thing where we're talking about the whole escrow thing. And, you know, so the best thing they can do is they've got to have a good showing for ratings when it comes to TV. I'm glad they've tried to somehow get to this rule and try to establish some sort of, you know, idea of what this has got to look like. Because how many times did we see games where, you know, we saw a star sitting on the sideline and we're going, why is he not in the game? You know, especially when you're a ticket holder or you go and as a father, you take your son to finally see Kawhi Leonard and he's resting this game. You know, however you want to put that. So, you know, I like that. I think they're doing the best they can to try to get money. I mean, and the NBA, you know, I don't say they're hurting by any means because it's the NBA, but for branding's sake and the way that they've done this thing, they've really been the forerunners of how other leagues are trying to mimic and follow.
Right. That's true. They are. They're trying to think long term about their brand, not just this immediate season. They are trying to think, and regardless of how you feel what the players did last year with the movements that they were supporting, the movements that we're putting out there, whether you're listening to this and you feel it's right or wrong, I'm not getting involved in the politics of that. What I'm stating is I think
we're here to talk sports.
Right. The NBA, I think, realized that it took a toll on their revenue.
Yeah.
And so they got out of that game. Off the court, they're probably going to let everybody do what they want to do because they've just been that type of league, and that's okay. Pretty much anywhere right now in sports outside of the Patriots, people are doing that. They're talking about whatever they want to talk about, which I can't say that now. The McCourty brothers are definitely talking a lot, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Use your platform the best way you can. But I think the NBA's decided that they're choosing to choose revenue over anything else right now. And so even over the concept of load management, they're figuring out a way to factor that in while not losing revenue. And I can't blame them because game 34 of this season, if it's on a Tuesday night and not televised anywhere but maybe local.
Unusual.
Right. But, they're not too concerned about that game. What they're concerned about is, the Friday night, the Sunday afternoon, or even, the first round of the playoffs. That's what Adam Silver's truly thinking of. So he's taking steps to fix all of that. And that's good. But jumping around in the NBA, I just, one other thing that I saw this week that I really wanted to touch on because I know that Paul George was in the news. Over the last week, he's had a couple things. Yeah, I know.
Not PG.
Not PG. He was in the news. So he was in the news saying basically he was talking junk about Doc Rivers last week. And he made the comment. He was saying that Doc – he didn't like the way basically Doc was using him. He was accusing Doc of trying to treat him as if he was J.J. Redick or Ray Allen, only using him on pin downs and things like that. So basically he's running him off screens and trying to set up a three-point shot. And Paul George says, I can do that, but it's not my game. And I would disagree that it's that he can do that. Whether or not it's his game or not, I'm not going to argue because I'm not 100% sure what his game is. And what I loved Doc's response. And before we get to the contract extension, I want to read you Doc's response. Doc said, this is all referencing the fact that Paul George is, excited about somebody else besides Doc as coaching, that he's got Ty Lue this year. Doc's response was, Ty Lue is sitting right next to me, so he better hope it's not an adjustment and ain't going to be much different. That's exactly Doc's response. That was I wrote that down as a full quote. Yeah. Doc in quotes said, okay, PG, it's probably not going to be much different this year because Ty was right beside me informing me the best way to use you. So good luck.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on PG throwing shade? This is your sport right here, man. You love the concept of throwing shade.
Man, yeah, and where I'm going is that I am never a fan from a character standpoint of going to the news, the media, social media, and blasting a coach. And we're not just talking any coach. We're talking most likely a Hall of Fame coach who led an organization through one of the toughest things an organization has ever had to go through. I mean, he was like the stand-in owner, coach, general manager, scout, all in one during that period when they were facing a lot of different things. Yep. And he is not a bad coach. I think the reality is where we're at here, and I know you're not as high on PG's game as probably I am, but the longer we see this thing play out, I was amazed at the contract extension. I was amazed at what the numbers were because outside of Indiana, what has he done?
No. I mean, for those who have not heard it, Paul George signed a 4-year, $190 million extension. So that means he is under contract through 2024 through 2025. He is currently 30 years old. So that means that this contract is going to carry him through the rest of his prime. And he is equating right now for 35% of the Clippers cap. That is not taking into account what Kawhi Leonard's getting paid.
Yeah, or what he is going to get paid on his next contract because there's that. I mean, for the Clippers, I don't know that they didn't have a choice in this. I get that because of what's out there on the market. They really weren't positioned to go after a Giannis or another big name. They had to kind of stay in-house. So I see that. I thought it was an astronomical amount of money. But to go back to your question, I don't like the fact that you throw shade. Here's the deal. You didn't show up last season. That's not your coach's fault. You didn't put up the numbers that they traded for you. They traded most of their, assets to bring you out there to pair you up with Kawhi. You didn't show up. And if you're an all-star player, like he claims to be, it doesn't matter where they put you as a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 1 or a 5. You're going to make it work and you're going to show up. And there's few guys out there. We don't see LeBron claiming, screaming about schemes and, all that stuff. Well, they got me in this. I know it's LeBron. We see times where AD has to go to 4 or he has to step in for the team and go to a 5. He doesn't complain. It's not his preference. But where you put these guys, they show up on a consistent basis. And so what PG3 does, instead of saying, you know what, guys, I stunk last year, he throws shade on the coach and blames on the coach. The coach ain't the one making the shots or missing the shots.
Yes.
That's where I'm at this whole thing.
Now, coaching does matter. Let's just we have to agree that coaching does matter. But at the end of the day, the more stars you have, the more star capability you have, the better off your team is. You can scheme. Now Greg Popovich has proven that you can scheme to stop a star. But you have to have people that can play those positions to be able to do it. Now, I will say that I feel like Paul George truly, truly choked last year. He left Kawhi Leonard hanging out there by himself on a limb. Kawhi was trying to carry that team, and I believe that Paul really was part of the biggest reason why they stunk.
Yeah, even Zubac, the bubble was just bad.
Zubac was playing well. Beverly gave you what he is. I mean, while he was healthy, he's nothing more than a defender and an irritant. Montrezl Harrell, I don't know if he was ever truly in shape and ready to go for the bubble because he had to miss so much time with a family death. But Paul George, they did give up a lot. They gave up SGA, Gallinari, picks, everything. They gave it up to get him. I mean, they gave up a lot to get him, and he did not show up. And I don't believe that you can blame Kawhi on that. I believe that Kawhi didn't play his best, absolutely, but he had no help. Yeah, Paul George is supposed to come up with a lot more than that. So I was a little shocked at the extension. I'm not shocked at the shade that he threw at Doc. I'm really not. That is the player that we see a lot now, that they talk junk because they want to talk junk. They talk junk now because Doc's not in the room. They probably weren't saying as much while Doc was there, but now that he's gone, I can say whatever I've been holding back. And I don't like that. I like the guy who will say it to his face. Like Louis talked about last week with Juwan Howard and Isaiah Livers, where they were going at it right there on the sideline. They probably hashed it out in the locker room too, but the fact is they were willing to say it man to man right there.
We're not airing our dirty laundry yet. We're not doing it. Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, I love the fact where guys say it to each other's face, and they don't use social media, they don't use sports news, they don't use any of that type of stuff to pass it on. They say it to them man to man, and they hash it out. And I think PG taking a shot now it's Bush League.
Yeah, and I agree. And kind of something that we hadn't planned to talk about tonight, but I think we got to go there just as a quick little blurb. Is that you brought the San Antonio Spurs, and you talked about Greg Popovich and his coaching style. I mean, I think we were all amazed to see the guy re-up out of Toronto that went down there.
DeRozan.
DeRozan, and I'm impressed with that because he realizes San Antonio is probably not. They're kind of in this cusp of rebuilding. But when you look at guys like Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, those were 3 superstars that played well together under a coach. They didn't have any issues in the media. You didn't hear about this stuff back then. They played, they showed up, and I think that you see a guy like DeRozan coming down, and it goes to the coaching style of another Hall of Fame coach. Now what I want to throw you a curveball is that there's some different reports out there about just down the locker room from the Clippers is about the LA Lakers, and about Kyle Kuzma. I want to get your thoughts on this. Should they keep him? Should they, pass him? They can't. There's a couple of scenarios out there that have been floated. I love there's 2 scenarios I love right here. There's this guy out of Atlanta. Oh goodness, slipped by. But there's this guy out of Atlanta that's doing amazing. They also talked about possibly flipping him for some draft picks from the Thunder and getting some draft capital back because really LA only has a couple 2 draft picks the next 2 or 3 years. Okay, my question to you is, do you get rid of Kuzma or do you keep him?
Well, it all comes down to compensation. It all comes down to what you can get. I have not heard about this potential Atlanta trade.
Yeah. It's all speculation on some ideas.
Oh, for John Collins.
John Collins, that's what it is. I'm over here trying to find it.
Okay, so what we're saying in this trade scenario, we're mentioning that The Lakers would send Kyle Kuzma and Horton Tucker and a
And,
2022
yes, and a
first-round
pick.
pick
Yeah.
to get John Collins, who's yet to be under a long-term deal.
Yeah.
So
And Atlanta has been doing some heavy stacking this offseason as well. So where does he really fit in all this? I mean, there's some other scenarios out there as well.
The situation, I get it from Atlanta's perspective, because
Yeah.
if you look at their roster and the moves that they have made recently, they're obviously going for a more spread offense, and John Collins is more of a low post bruiser. I don't know how long of basically how much his range is. So I don't know how well he could play a stretch four. He's kind of more of an old school, undersized, kind of Charles Barkley kind of player. So I can get that from Atlanta's perspective. I don't know if I get it from LA's perspective.
You're giving up a lot.
You're giving up a lot. Now Collins is he's a budding all-star. He's done very well on a team that didn't have much talent. But is that he's done very well because the team did not have much talent? So therefore, that's why his stats look so good. So that's kind of where I fall. I think if you're the Lakers, in that trade scenario, actually both of the trade scenarios that you just listed, to the Thunder for picks or to the Hawks for John Collins, I think I keep Kuzma.
I agree.
Kuzma's ability to stretch the floor, play almost three positions between the 3 and the 5, depending on who they're playing. I think it has more value than what they would get in return. Plus, you've already got him in there. He knows how to play with LeBron. Whether he knows how to do it properly or not yet, he kind of has an understanding of what LeBron is going to want, whereas John Collins is going to come through the door, and I don't know. So that just depends on if you're going to the question becomes if you're going to play Collins at the 4 or the 5. I think he's a little too undersized to consistently play the 5, kind of like Anthony Davis, where maybe he's got the height, but he doesn't have the weight to constantly
do it. That's why they're going after, Pau Gasol. You know how that is. All that speculation.
That's so funny to me that he wants to come in there. I don't understand at this point what he can offer physically.
Yeah.
But I get the concept, Pau. Shout out to you. I hope you can do it. I would love to see you play one more year, but at this point, if anything, you're more of a player coach.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with you. I think if I'm doing anything at all as LA, and if I'm looking to move Kuzma, I'm going to Oklahoma City for some picks.
But you don't need picks.
They do.
But
they don't. No,
but you're not trying to win in 3 years.
But you can flip those picks for somebody else down the line or something like that. That's my.
I get it because Oklahoma has the trade exception right now. They have that in their pockets when they just moved Kelly Oubre and stuff like that. So, speaking of Kobe, that's your dog Kobe there barking it up for us. That's hilarious. But in this situation where we're talking about, they could send what LA would be trying to do right there is they're trying to get a trade exception and they're trying to get draft picks back to possibly go get something. But at the same time, what are they trying to get and what do they need at this moment? So that's kind of the scenario and the struggle to figure out right there. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing what the NFL has coming up, or NFL. That's hilarious. What the NBA's got coming up. I'm looking forward to the season. But in that conversation, we're going to go ahead and transition now to talk about some NFL. I'm kind of excited about it. So last weekend, Chris and I have right now we're doing a competition all season long where we're trying to see who can get the most picks right every week. I've had a strong lead all season, and I will tell you that my lead is now down to 2 games. Not really excited about it. Not really excited about the Lions, and the Titans are killing me. Every time I pick them, whatever I pick, if I pick them to lose, they win. If I pick them to win, they lose. And I'm really struggling. But last week, neither one of us picked the shocker of the week.
Washington.
And that was the undefeated Steelers losing to the Washington Footballers. I feel like I'm talking about a soccer team when I say it. What did you see out of that game?
Once again, I'm where I'm going
Alex
with
Smith. You're going to say Alex Smith. I know it.
I'm just telling you. I mean, I'm just saying. We saw the bottom feeders, worst team in the league, right there, all besides the Jets, what I'm saying?
That's what I say. Not quite the worst team in the league.
Are now, if I'm not mistaken, leading out there, and I mean, they shocked everybody, and they were solid. It's amazing. Pittsburgh also had a bad night. I hear all the Pittsburgh Steelers fans this week, and I know a couple of this was what they're saying. Their line was all week. Well, I'm glad we got that L out the way. Like, I've never heard anybody say, like, I'm so glad we lost. Like, seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to see if you're that good. I want to see you go undefeated.
Beat the
Steelers
Dolphins record.
Fans are like, so glad we got that L out the way. I'm like, what the crap are you talking about? You know what I'm saying?
But that's a fan for you. That's a fan topic right there. That's a fan.
That's
speaking.
what I say to FSU every week.
I didn't know where you were going right there.
Yeah,
I didn't hear the S at first.
Yeah.
Oh, that scared me. I was like, we're not that kind of show, buddy.
Yeah, no, we're not. No. I'm glad my Noles got their 4th loss consecutively. I'm glad they lost to a AA school. Yeah, we got.
Don't worry. I'm gonna bring up your Noles here in a little while.
But for Pittsburgh, though, I don't think anything to be worried about. They're still a great football team. They do have another tough game this week, and it was tough because I almost picked the Bills and I almost picked the Giants against the Cardinals. And it's not going to be an easy road up there in Buffalo. Actually, I think I did pick Buffalo to beat the Steelers this week, if I'm not mistaken.
You did pick the Bills.
Yeah, and so I don't think that Pittsburgh is a bad team at all. I think they had a rough week.
They're 11-1. I would hope not.
Yeah, I think they just had a bad game. And, man, they have got I think one of the best defenses we have seen. And they're notorious for having a tough defense. But I think they're number one right now. I love what they're doing. I'm not a Steelers fan personally, but, man, they are playing some good football, even after losing to the Washington football team.
The Washington football team. Yeah, I think that I think the Bud Dupree loss, losing him for the year, I think that really hurt them. They just lost another linebacker as well, Skillane or something like that. I don't remember how to pronounce his name, but they just lost him for a couple of weeks for an injury, but it's not a major injury. They're just going to be kind of low on linebackers, I think, for the next week or so, to the point where I supposedly heard they were looking at bringing back James Harrison, which I so highly doubt it, because when he left and signed with the Patriots, they basically wrote him off. He's a black sheep right now. So, but what I saw, and it's what we've seen with the Steelers all year long, is that they have an amazing quarterback. You could argue that Ben Roethlisberger is the comeback player of the year after losing basically last year. I mean, he was out basically the entire year.
Yeah, he redshirted.
Yeah, basically. But what we see right now is that we've got a Washington team where their defense is just clicking under Ron Rivera, man. They're growing, and they should after so many. If you go look at their roster, they've got, I don't know, three or four first-round picks on that defensive line. So when you've got these guys that are there, I mean, you should be doing some pretty good football. But between Montez Sweat and what was the first-round pick? This what they have, Chase. Man, it's
out of Ohio State.
Yeah, at Ohio State.
Yeah,
what is his name?
Yeah, not Chase Young.
Chase Young. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Chase Young. Thank you. I kept wanting to say Jones, and I'm just losing it right now. But between Montez Sweat on one side, they got him like really basically pretty low last year because he was injured. And then you got Chase Young, and then you got Jonathan Allen in the middle, I think it is, and then there's another guy I think from Alabama. I mean, they've got some big boys in there. They're playing some good football. And they've got some guys around that. Hey, Tar Heel shout out. Cole Holcomb is doing a good job up there playing linebacker. So they've got a team that's improving. And you know what they got this year? And you've been shouting this at me for over a month. What they've got is a quarterback who does not turn the ball over. And so what you're doing is you're not putting your defense in bad situations. Yep. You're game managing with Alex Smith. And sure, he's a short-term fix to your team. He's a short-term fix. He's probably got, I don't know, 3 years at best before he's done. At best is my guess. But, shout out to him. I think he probably should win comeback player of the year, considering
if he keeps winning out, but they're also in a weak conference, and that conference is down this year big time.
The Cowboys and Eagles absolutely suck this year, but the Redskins, the Washington and the Giants were in complete rebuild mode.
Yeah.
I was going to mention this later, but I feel like, the Washington is tied right now with the Giants for first place. They're both at 5-7.
And how the season turns, my goodness, both of those teams.
Absolutely. They won last week without their starting quarterback. The Giants did. They won last week what's his name? Colt McCoy. They won, I
Yep.
think, with Colt McCoy
Out of
starting at
Texas.
quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, former Redskin. When they were the Redskins. So they're playing good football right now, both of them. And here's my question to you. Okay, we have MVP every year, and then we have offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year. Should we not have rookie coach of the year? In a manner of speaking, should we not give something to the 5-7 Giants the way that Joe Judge has turned that team around from a travesty that it looked like it was going to start out with losing Saquon Barkley so early? They gave away Odell Beckham for nothing a couple years ago. They had nothing in the stable, and yet Joe Judge has got them potentially in the playoffs. Now, I understand they have a losing record. But, my God, it's his first job ever, and he's doing a fantastic one. He beat the Seahawks last week. He beat the Seahawks. Russell Wilson is supposed to be an MVP caliber player, and they beat him. So, I mean, you got to give a shout-out to Joe Judge at the job he's doing up there. Former Patriot guy. Finally, this year, the former Patriots, Brian Flores and Joe Judge are actually doing something, making it look like Belichick can, in fact, get a disciple out there to do something correctly.
Finally.
Yes, the coaching tree has been very bare.
Well, I mean, let's go down the road a little bit. I mean, you're talking about the Giants, and I agree with you. I think that there's a lot to be said about the turnaround up there. Very unexpected. This is the year of unexpectedness, as we have all seen and we all know. Yeah, we'll just make up words as we go, kind of like FSU.
Watch it.
But obviously, we know the Jets are on an unbelievable downward slide. And there's rumors out there about when I say rumors, there's people out there that are speculating about what could be and what should be, possible names being floated out there for the Jets coach. You brought up one before we came on. What are your thoughts? For all our listeners who may not have heard it, name drop it and let's see what happens.
Well, we should get to that, but in saying that, let's go ahead and talk about hot seat, and that's kind of where we get to this because we're talking about replacing a coach that hasn't quite been fired yet. So if we're going to mention a few coaches that we feel like are on the hot seat, we got to start with Adam Gase. We feel like the New York Jets coach has probably got one foot in the grave, if not, the second
and
foot
one other coach
sliding in there. So we think that, and we shouldn't say we think. There's a rumor out there right now that Bill Cowher, the former Steelers coach, who hasn't coached in about 15 years, I believe, is interested. Now, this comes up every single time that the Jets job is available. His name comes up. So we know that the Jets job is probably going to be available very soon. They just fired Greg Williams, their defensive coordinator, because he almost won a game. How dare he? Don't mess up the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And so we have here is Adam Gase is probably out the door. Bill Cowher may be coming in. And I'll be honest with you. He's a North Carolina guy. He's a Raleigh guy. He played at NC State, did an unbelievable job in Pittsburgh. He really did. I think he won 2 rings, 1 ring. 2 rings. I can't remember now. I think he won 1 ring. I know for sure with Ben Roethlisberger.
I was thinking 1. Yeah.
And I couldn't remember. I guess Tomlinson won the second one. That's what it was. I was trying to remember at what point Tomlinson came in, if it was during the Super Bowl era of post Super Bowl for Ben Roethlisberger. Oh. So we'll have to Google that at some point. But I wonder about Cowher's style. Now, Cowher was a run first all day long coach. Ben Roethlisberger did not throw nearly as much in his early career, which most quarterbacks shouldn't and don't. But I wonder how well his style will work now. As we're seeing with guys or retreads, so to speak, it doesn't always work. Look at Dallas right now, bringing in McCarthy, who still can't coach in this NFL. So do the Jets want to do that, or do they want to be innovative? Now, I'll go ahead and name drop here for you. I saw this on Matt O'Leary's podcast the other day where he was talking about who he feels should be the next coach of the Jets. And he dropped Joe Brady. Joe Brady, if you guys remember him, he was the offensive coordinator last year, or the passing coordinator for the record-setting LSU Tigers that helped Joe Burrow become the first pick in the draft. He is now the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, who's taken a marginalized team a team that has lost their star player basically all season long, and he's taken some guys and actually made them look good. Let's admit that Teddy Bridgewater, he is no Drew Brees. He's not that talented, but yet he's got Bridgewater playing some of the best football of his life. He hasn't had McCaffrey all year, yet he's made Mike Davis look pretty decent in a few times. So I think that he's doing a fantastic job. So what Matt O'Leary was suggesting is that bringing in somebody like Joe Brady, who's innovative in offense, and, getting a guy like Trevor Lawrence to go with that, man, that could be huge. What do you think of the idea of Joe Brady going to the Jets?
I like that better than I like Bill Cowher. I mean, I don't like Bill Cowher, but I'll tell you why I don't like Bill Cowher in this. I love Bill Cowher as a coach. I do believe stylistically you're talking two different things, but this is the reason I'm going to give here, and y'all can throw some shade on me here, but here it goes. Who is interested in going to the Jets?
Well, that's what they said. It's a rumor. Cowher has not come out and said it.
I don't see a Hall of Fame coach going, hey, yep, I'm next up. I want to go to the Jets. I don't see it. Now, a guy like you and guys like you and I, yeah, we'll give it a shot.
I'll go do it. I'll absolutely give me just 1 year. Give me 1 month under that contract.
Even if you get the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, I mean, you're talking one guy. I mean, they need a whole culture change up there, a whole locker room shift up there. So that's where I'm at in that.
In all fairness, if they do get Trevor Lawrence, you have to keep in mind, if they do draft Trevor Lawrence, which is in all likelihood they are going to be the number 1 pick. They are currently sitting at 0-12. 0-12. The closest team to them is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 1-11. So the odds are they are going to get that first round pick unless they do something really stupid like win. So they're going to get Trevor Lawrence. That's not even a question. The question becomes, can you now flip Sam Darnold for anything? And one projection I saw was flipping Sam Darnold to the Bears for a second-round pick, because I don't believe at this point, the way they've run Sam Darnold down, that you're going to get much of a first-round pick or anything for him. And I think that the Dolphins proved that when they traded for Josh Rosen. All they gave up was a second-rounder. They weren't going to give up a first-rounder, especially for a team that has to move him. So we're talking a second-round pick from the Bears and turning that into something, and then you're changing the entire culture. You've brought in a new coach, you brought in a new quarterback, and hopefully, potentially, you're bringing in some other talent. But as a Patriots fan, I hope they keep them all there, and it's a complete soap opera, and they continue to lose, and I love it. And I would only ask that Rex Ryan could coach the Bills and the Dolphins at the same time next year. That's what I need.
Just be careful what play you call, because you might get fired at the end of the game, when you get just by calling a play.
I'm going to tell you right now, if he doesn't I think he was fired regardless of what play he called. If you call the correct play, do a prevent defense at that point, and you win that game, you're probably fired because you might have lost the chance to draft Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. You were what's the phrase? Danged if you do, danged if you don't. Greg Williams was out the door on that one. His style of defense is archaic and doesn't work unless you're injuring other people. So there we go. That's our thought on that. And I'll go ahead and tell you now that I think that on top of the hot seat for that one, I think Doug Peterson is definitely on the hot seat in Philadelphia because of the way he's handled this situation. Carson Wentz is now benched for Jalen Hurts. That's a short-term Doug Peterson trying to save his job type of situation, and that ain't going to work. I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, because they owe Carson Wentz so much money over the next 3 or 4 years. There's no way that they can get out of this situation without egg on their face. And so I know that he's just trying to fix it, but it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough one up there.
That's a tough one. So they've got to figure that one out. I think that Doug Marrone is probably on the hot seat. I know Anthony Lynn, after losing 45-0 to the awful Patriots, the Patriots quarterback has less than 100 yards passing, and you lose 45-0. I think Anthony Lynn is probably on his way out, and I have no idea how Matt Nagy in Chicago is not on his way out. So we're going to zoom through the rest of this stuff. I think that, we're going to look at real fast at college football. So I want to throw this out to you. I see the big news. Shane Beamer is now the new South Carolina head coach. Beamer actually was a position coach there from 2007 to 2010. Obviously, we all know who his dad is. Frank Beamer coached Virginia Tech for many years.
Tech, yeah. Yep.
He was a fantastic coach at Virginia Tech for many, many years. We see that Shane Beamer has position coached at Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Georgia, Virginia Tech, obviously. And lately, he has been the associate head coach and tight end coach at Oklahoma. So I don't hate the hiring of Shane Beamer. I will admit to you that I was hoping that they would interview another guy. But before I mention that guy's name, what are your thoughts on hiring Beamer? Is it just a ho-hum bad job?
No, I mean, I love it. A guy coming from Oklahoma all over to South Carolina. You and I talked about this in our past podcast, and just keeping it brief for you is if they can recruit, I think with his, dynamic and who he is and who he's come under, if they can get a couple of good quarterbacks scouting wise, I think that they'll change that South Carolina offense up. So I like it.
And if you're going to go to the SEC, you better go to the SEC East, where you really only have to. Obviously you got Georgia and Florida, but at least it's not on the same side as Alabama. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a really, really tough thing for him to do. Steve Spurrier hasn't been able to do it. Will Muschamp, every guy that's been there has not been able to turn that into a powerhouse. They can get maybe one or two years where they're slightly contending, but they just can't get over the hump. So I good luck to Beamer. I really wanted to I was hoping they would interview the guy out of Coastal Carolina. I'll be honest with you. He's doing a fantastic job out of Coastal Carolina. He's done a great job. Is Jamie Chadwell, I believe his name. Let me make sure I got that right. It is Jamie Chadwell. Now, saying that, looking up his history, he's won Coach of the Year in the Big South and stuff like that. He's done a good job. But I will say, he's not coached at that level before, SEC type level before. He's coached. He played at East Tennessee State. He was position coach there. He's done a few things. Most of his coaching history has been at Coastal Carolina, so small school out of Myrtle Beach. But shout out to them, man. They won a big game last week again. On a week's notice, they beat a BYU team that was pretty good. They're coming in there. They've got some guys that are potentially NFL players. Then there's conversations about Zach Wilson, the BYU quarterback. He's the starting quarterback. He's a potential first-round pick. Now, it might be into the first round, but that's how good of a quarterback that they say that he is. He's a potential first-round pick, and they beat them. It was a close game. It was 1 yard away from losing, but they won that game. And I will say that on a national televised game, they looked a little bit of Bush League themselves. Did you see those two players tackling Zach Wilson on the interception? The way they were blocking him? That was pretty bad. I'm surprised it wasn't a worse fight than that was. I hope they understand how bad that probably looked for their program on national television. But, hey, they were just trying to get the W any which way possible. Apparently Greg Williams is also their defensive coordinator. Take the quarterback out, and you get an extra scholarship or something. You'll be the first college player to get a stipend.
Benefits. Yeah, put yourself on
some extra benefits.
Yeah, be like LSU and take yourself out of bowl eligibility during.
Yeah, we're gonna take ourselves out of bowl eligibility when we're 3-5. Yeah, because they're really the Tigers. We ain't gonna play in the playoffs this year, so we'll. I can't even do it.
Self-impose. Yeah.
That just all I could ever hear when Coach O starts talking is Bobby Boucher. You play the foosball. So that's all I can hear when that old man talks.
High quality H2O.
High quality H2O. Them Tigers.
Yeah.
But hey, man, I got a question for you, man. All right. So my Tar Heels, I'm a homer. I'll admit I'm a homer. My Tar Heels struggled. They choked against Notre Dame. We're a little bit away from it. We had a monster game against. I can't even remember who it was now, like Western Carolina or something recently. We had a major game against them. A way to send off our seniors for their last home game. But we go this week and play Miami at Miami. That's going to be a tough game for us. I don't know if we're going to come out of there. But I want to talk about another Florida team. You know that one that sounded like you were cussing earlier, but you weren't? Yeah, that FSU team, Florida State. I saw Asante Samuel Jr. left early. He opted out because he knows he's going to be drafted this year. And then I saw they had a wide receiver, 4-star wide receiver, say, you know what, I was committed, but now I'm not committed to going to Florida State anymore. What is happening to your team?
I don't think anything's happened. I think it goes back to all the stories that we've seen that have come out, Jimbo time, Jimbo time, just the culture that Mike Norvell was brought in to change. And
there was who was in between? Willie Taggart?
Yeah, Willie Taggart. He was brought in to change all this stuff. When you go and you read the reports of what was happening down there, the power struggle with the big donors and all that stuff going on, I think what you see is that, Florida State is in a complete rebuild. I mean, we see it. And Mark Norvell knew that when he came in. And he got the respect of the players. He knew the expectations. He set them up front. I think you got guys who had been traditionally recruited to go to Florida State and say, we are a national powerhouse, as you saw back in the 90s. We're one and dones. We're two and dones. You know, we're always competing up there in the top five. You know, we're going to a big bowl game. Then all of a sudden, when programs like Florida State start losing, it really reveals the character of guys. And I'm not saying these guys are bad character, but in a season of COVID and all that we've had, I don't think it's a fair assumption to say they're leaving because of the program or if they're leaving because we're losing. It's really hard to put your finger on, but I don't think it's Mike Norvell. I don't think it's his staff. I think it's a combination of things. And these guys are realizing Florida State's not going to a big bowl game this year. You know, let's just call it what it is. It's a weird season. And now next year, if we get back full circle, I mean, we got a lot of stuff happening. We've got people like Ohio State who are changing rules to get their big teams into the, national spotlight, into bowl games. We got all this stuff. I mean, there's just a lot of shifting going on. So, I don't read too much into it.
Well, I know that you're exactly right that mentioning real fast. I understand that Florida State's struggling, and they're going to bounce back eventually. It's Florida State.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Eventually, they'll get back because they've got a heck of a history, and that carries to a lot of players, especially if you're out of the state of Florida. Everybody likes them because out of the state of Florida, what's your other option? Miami? Come on. The U's not back yet. Regardless of what Ray Lewis and Michael Irvin want to say, they're not back yet. So, real fast, as you just mentioned, Ohio State, the Big Ten is changing rules for them. Okay, so this week we saw that the Ohio State-Michigan game was canceled. I think Michigan had something about like 45 players that had COVID-related stuff. So whether they were just being quarantined or they actually had it, I mean, that's a lot. That's probably like half their team that has this situation. So I don't know if that's just if they actually had it or Harbaugh just didn't want to lose to Ohio State again. So if Harbaugh does not go, 0-6 or so against Ohio State, does that mean he gets to keep his job or should he be fired anyway?
I believe we talked about this last week, and isn't it interesting in the same conversation this week, Harbaugh meets with the AD, and they're going to come to some sort of agreement extension after the season is over about the direction of the program. So all of this happens in 1 week. I tell you, one can speculate on what's coming here. I think everybody sees the writing on the wall, but I think it goes back to what you and I talked about last show as well, or the show before last, is if you let a guy like Harbaugh go, who is a good coach, but in a strong – it's like you bring in guys in the SEC. They chew up good coaches because you're going against Alabama. You're going against Georgia. You're going against Florida. I mean, it chews up good coaches all the time. A program like Michigan, you're going to get chewed up because you're going against Ohio State. I mean, on a consistent basis. Is who do you bring in? I do think it's time to go in a different direction, but who do you go with? I don't know.
Well, I definitely feel like they need to go a different direction. I think they need a different voice in the room. They need somebody that can do something to benefit that team, because I think that Harbaugh, the cachet that he had when he started, I think it's gone. He has lost his luster, and he's proving so far that for some reason, he did it with San Francisco and he did it with Stanford. He developed quarterbacks. For some reason, he cannot do it at Michigan, and I think that has been their downfall so far. They can't get the guy behind the helm. It's the most important position in football, and they can't get it right.
Right.
They've taken retreads. They've taken guys from, like, when he took Shea Patterson from Ole Miss. Patterson was looking decent in the SEC at Ole Miss. He gets to Michigan, and all of a sudden he can't play. I don't know. I don't believe that. I think that they just misused him. They didn't know how to do it properly. So I don't know. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I did think it was kind of interesting that Ohio State gets the rules changed for them to where they get into the championship game. So basically the rules stated that you had to play 6 games in order to get into the Big Ten championship. Ohio State should have had 6 games. They've lost a couple games because of COVID stuff. But then they lose the game to Michigan because Michigan can't play. Kirk Herbstreit was hilarious because he actually put it out there as a hypothetical that Michigan could get the win by not playing and making sure that Ohio State stays out of the championship game. And it's brilliant. It happened. So that's what we kind of have going on there. But Big Ten changes the rules. Why? Because they know that they could lose out on some serious revenue if Ohio State is not get a chance to go play in the college football playoff. So that's all this was about. Would they make that decision if it was Indiana or Iowa State, or not even the right conference, but would they make that same decision?
Yeah.
I don't think they do. I don't think they make that decision for Indiana. You make
but I
that
think
decision.
It's hard to, in the COVID era, and I see both sides here. Is it fair to penalize an Ohio State team who was ready to play and geared up to play and scouted to play, and the other team is the one that can't do it? Is it fair to penalize an Ohio State team because they're ready to go and they're going to go in there? We all can call it what you want to call it. It's probably 52-0. And it's not even worth showing up for, but they're ready to go, and that's a big rivalry. So
they're going to play at Northwestern.
Yeah, and their players are ready to play. So I see that, but it's interesting. It's the year of COVID. It's the year of the pandemic. It's the year of the asterisks in every situation.
Right. Okay. I have a curveball for you. So here we go. Guess who wants to come talk college basketball with you, buddy? He wanted to come talk to you, Chris. So we got JJ in the house with us again. He wanted to talk. He wanted to talk with Uncle Chris, see if they could get some – I want to see if I can get some shade on camera live. This is going to be good. So in all fairness, we wanted to talk some college basketball. So, JJ, your thoughts. The other day we saw you and I watched most of the game, the Iowa-Carolina game, and we were pretty upset. What did you think?
The refs were idiots, and I'm pretty sure that was rigged.
Oh, we're calling conspiracy already? Okay, all right.
The dude tripped, and it was a foul.
So he's referencing Luka Garza tried to do a spin move against Walker Kessler and hit Kessler's foot and fell. Kessler was standing still, but the foul was called against Kessler. So I don't know. So you think the game was rigged? I don't know if I would agree with rigged. I don't know if I agree with the term rigged, but I will say that it did feel like it was one-sided on the interior. Chris, your thoughts on the idea of rigging?
I don't – look, I'll go ahead. The game wasn't rigged, but I will tell you that even though we didn't win the scoreboard, I was kind of encouraged watching the game. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I mean, Carolina, their bigs really showed up and played. And, we may not have got the W, but, man, I tell you what, if they come out and they play the rest of the season like they played against Iowa, watch out for Carolina if there's a tournament. I'm just going to be up front.
I don't like the words "if there's a tournament." That hurts my feelings.
I was impressed, man. I was impressed how they stayed in there when they got down early in the first half by 14, by 13. They came back. They started shooting the ball well. Iowa went a little cold on threes. Carolina became less one-dimensional because when they got down, the reason being is because they kept going inside and missing, little elbow jumpers. But when they really opened the game up, took their first lead midway through the second half, they really became inside-out shooters. And if it wasn't their inside, they were shooting threes. That was a different side of Carolina that we haven't seen this season, really the last two seasons. And so I walked away going, man, I hate that we took an L, but, man, if they play like this, it's going to be a good year for Tar Heel fans.
Well, we said this from the get-go that a lot of what Carolina is going to do this year is going to be based off of how well their guards play. Yeah. They have some phenomenal big men, but we have freshman guards who are trying to run that system. You got RJ. I thought RJ Davis actually outplayed Caleb Love at the point. I think he just had a better flow to it. Now, neither one of them played amazing, but there's a lot of room to grow there. How about Andrew Platek actually hitting shots this game? I mean, I think he hit 3 or 4 threes that were timely for us, but getting down early, I think that was a big thing. I guess I struggle. I struggled with Roy not making an adjustment. Yeah. And the adjustment that I needed him to make was stop doubling the post unless it's Luka Garza. And in that one, I don't even think you fully double it. I think you feint towards doubling and get back out because where we got hurt, our guards would turn their heads and look down there towards trying to double team the post. And Garza and the other bigs, all they were doing was passing out. And their guys, Fredericks, I think it was, and Bohannon, I mean, they were unbelievable. They were unstoppable.
They got hot very fast.
Yeah, they were unstoppable from three-point range, and that's why we lost.
But you didn't need to double Garza. If you watch that game, you did not need to double him. I mean, when you look at this, we threw almost 1,000 pounds towards him.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
When I say this to you, the forwards, all of them, they get the game ball because they played well. They did. And I know where you're going to go in just a second. And I would, I agree about making the switch. I tell you, the guy that you and I were talking about that impressed me the most in this game was Sharp.
Yeah, Day'Ron Sharp.
When you take that foul trouble out, and I see JJ what you're talking about. He got some petty fouls who I didn't really think were big. Like they were big calls. I mean, even when Carolina came back and the phantom trip by Garza, I was like, no. But they changed the momentum of the game when that foul got called. The same thing when Sharp got 4 quick fouls. It changed it because he was aggressive. I was impressed on how aggressive he was. And I liked it.
And the reference Chris is making there is that JJ and I have been talking off screen because he's my son and we talk a lot. But we were wondering, should Roy Williams make a switch? Now Armando Bacot is extremely talented, but for some reason to me, he wasn't aggressive in that game. I don't know what the deal was, but there were multiple times that he caught something, we'll say in the 10-foot range away from the rim in a kind of an elbow setting where Garza was not coming out to him. And instead of Bacot trying to make a play or trying to turn and square up and shoot on him, because if you're open, you should shoot, he caught the ball and he was automatically looking at which guard to pass to, and the guards were not leaving their guys. If you notice at that time where he was at, they weren't doubling down on him that far away from the goal. And Bacot just wasn't making good decisions to me. And the shift and everything happened when Day'Ron Sharp came into the game. And he just, I don't know, man. He just said, I'm going to make the most of my time. Yep. He played hard on defense. He basically let Garza know that, hey, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of you at all. And he went at him and did well. Now, Bacot played okay defense on him. They both got in foul trouble. Who is it? Brooks, Bacot, yeah, exactly. Brooks, Bacot, and Sharp all had 4 fouls with like 9 minutes to go in the game.
Yep.
They all had 4 fouls, and they all came from guarding. Basically, all but one of those came from guarding Garza. One foul that Sharp got was just stupidity. It was a freshman where he literally tried to jump and landed on a guy. Like that was just a really bad play.
Well, no, the ball just stood like he hit the rim, and the guy he's up there like, I'm trying.
Yeah, he just and I felt bad for that guy because that's like 260, 280 pounds just coming down on your back.
Yeah,
that had to hurt. But I don't know. I know that Roy won't do the switch. I know he won't do it because he does not take the
he'll go experience
or his older guys. He does not take it away from them.
Yeah,
and he's trying to do his best to help Bacot get to the next level as well. And I know he is. He's trying to do right by his player, but at the same time, I wonder if it would be doing right by the team to make that switch to get that energy. But I don't know. I know it's not going to happen, but I would like to see it happen. And I think that it could have a major impact on Carolina the rest of the year. But I'm not opposed to it. I think I was texting with my brother-in-law, and I told him that, what the only part that concerns me about Sharp is if he keeps playing like he is, I think we could lose him. I think he'll be another Tony Bradley, Marvin Williams, where he'll be gone. He'll be the 6th man off the bench, gone that fast from your team, and then you're left reeling on trying to build when you thought you were going to have him for at least one more year. So I hope Roy's recruiting some big men because he's probably going to need them. But hey, I wanted to ask you guys a question. So there's this guy in Durham. He's fairly well known. He's fairly well known. Coach K, or as Ben called him to us in a text message the other day, Coach Karen. Coach Karen literally said his thought was, is this the right time to be playing college basketball with a country dealing with a pandemic? The NBA is still going. The NFL is still going. Major League Baseball managed to finish their season. The NHL did. Why is it all of a sudden Coach Karen is worried about finishing the season in a pandemic? And let me read you a quote from Alabama coach Nate Oates. Do you think if Coach K hadn't lost his 2 non-conference games at home, he would still be saying that? What do you think, JJ? What do you think about Coach K saying that maybe we shouldn't be playing college basketball right now?
I think he's scared.
Of the virus or scared of losing more?
Losing.
Yeah, they got blown out at home. They lost a close game, I think, to Michigan State at home, and then they get blown out by Illinois. So, yeah, I could see that he's looking scared. I think the last time he had a team that he was worried about losing, he all of a sudden had to have back surgery, and his assistant coach took those L's. What do you think, Chris?
I thought it was ironic. I texted you guys when I saw it that, he gets blown out by Illinois, who is a great team. So no disrespect to Fighting Illini this year, to come out and say, I'm a little unsure while we're playing the pandemic. I think whether he meant it or not, I mean, he is a Hall of Fame coach. We can't deny that. He coaches at professional level. He coaches at the college level. There's always been a debate about him going to college. I think it's a shady comment. I say shady comment. Let me be careful here. I don't want to say, because he's a Hall of Fame coach. It's a comment that begs the question on what's behind the comment.
Right.
And in the world of podcasting, in the world of social media, we tend to pick apart every single word. And I think that's the sad part of this thing, is that you really don't have any freedom to speak your mind anymore as a coach. But from a Carolina guy sees that comment.
We're biased. We're completely biased.
So we're completely biased. A Duke guy sees that. They're like, oh, I don't see anything by it. Carolina guy sees it. We're like, oh, yeah, pansy. You know what I'm saying? That's
right.
That's just the way the nature of this thing works. So I'll be curious to see if he presses it.
He's not going to press it. He's not going to press it. And because he did make a great comment, though, in that, where he was stating in his comment that he's not really sure who's even in charge of college basketball. Is it the NCAA? Is it the revenue from ESPN and things like that? Who's actually dictating whether or not to keep playing or not playing? And so he's right. There is no real governing body, because Mark Emmert and the NCAA have shown that they're completely incompetent and they're not capable of doing this. So Coach K is almost like the de facto czar of college basketball, and whatever he says, people are going to listen, whether they agree with him or not. They're going to listen. So I think that that we're going to have to leave it at that. That Coach K did this. He said this, but hey, it is what it is. He's wanted to. We'll see if he can turn this thing around, and he will be, because he's got a bunch of 5-star talent, because he recruits better than Calipari these days. JJ. Just, we're about to close out, so I got to ask you, man, you got any shots now that Uncle Chris is here face to face? You got any shots you want to take at him?
Nah.
He won't do it, Chris, unless you're not here. The shade can't happen when you're looking.
I didn't get my opportunity.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll have to get him back on next time. But I had to throw Chris a curveball tonight just to have a little bit of fun. So we hope that you guys enjoyed this. We hope that you got something out of it. We had a ton of fun. So JJ, tell them bye.
Bye.
Chris.
Guys, we love it every week. What a blessing. God bless you.
All right, guys. Have a great one. We'll see you next time.